Chancellor Strom over to my right, Antonio Tillis from Chancellor from Rutgers Camden will be attending by Zoom. Tonight, our agenda, we also have Chancellor Provost from Rutgers Newark, Francine Conway, Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer Michael Gower, Secretary of the University to my right, Kimberly Pasva, Associate Secretary of the University, Patrick Melillo. We also have board members and members of the administration joining us in the audience. Purpose of this hearing is to gather input from the university community on student charges, including tuition, fees, room, and board rates for the coming academic year. We take this responsibility very seriously. Annually, we face the difficult task of keeping tuition and fee increases as low as possible, while also recognizing that the programs and services that students want and need require adequate funding. Further, we must recognize the effects of inflation on many aspects of the university's operations, plus the real pressures from compensation and costs of fringe benefit programs. We are grateful to the state of New Jersey for the support it provides that keeps Rutgers tuition well below that at private universities. And we hope that the state will continue that support. Our purpose tonight is to hear from you, the university community. We will listen carefully and respectfully to all who address us, and we ask that you do the same while others are speaking. At this point in time, I'd like to call on Ms. Pasva to review the protocol for this evening and ask all panelists to mute themselves at this time to prevent background noise from interfering with the hearing.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for participating in tonight's open hearing on tuition, fees, housing, and dining charges. Please keep in mind that this is not a question and answer session, as the purpose of this hearing is to hear comments from the Rutgers community on tuition and fees. Individuals who signed up to speak will be called upon and provided up to 2 minutes for their remarks. Please state your name and affiliation and limit your comments to the topics of tuition, fees, and housing and dining charges. And I just want to echo Chair Tambusi's comments that we ask that you also respect others while they are speaking so that we can all hear from them. Thank you.
At this time, Ms. Pasva, we call on each speaker.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. So our first speaker is on Zoom. So let me see if I can find. I do not see that individual, Mr. Chair. I'm going to try another one. And I do not see that individual. Okay. We have somebody who should be in person, Jacob Pender.
Thank you. I'm talking about housing and living conditions. I live in a building that is only 5 years old. There is no cell service in my building. I am unable to take phone calls from my parents, grandparents, family, friends, or doctors in the privacy of my dorm. I have had to take phone calls in a single-use bathroom downstairs. This has put my health and privacy at risk. The building is often regarded as a modern entity at Rutgers University. Yet my HVAC system has only worked twice, non-consecutively, for a period of less than a week each time. When someone contacted maintenance, they stated that they would not fix it in the building, despite thermometers reading 81 degrees. There have been severe problems with security. Many people have had things stolen from them from residents who do not live in the building. The swipe from the security system to access the resident halls have frequently have infrequently worked. In addition, there is no wait check in the elevator. Anyone can enter and wait for someone upstairs to call the elevator. This is particularly scary for me and my fellow residents because there are classes taught in my building. So anyone has access to the building. It is unlocked during normal business hours. Light bulbs had been stolen on many occasions from the elevator, making them a safety hazard to those using them. One second. Many bathrooms have mold on their ceilings, and the shower curtains are insufficient. Many of the bathrooms have needed to be shut down at some point because they cause damage to the building. The day I moved in, my family came with me. The air conditioning was not working throughout the building. Many family members had come to drop off their students and suffered due to the lack of air conditioning. When I had asked my RA, they said that there was no maintenance on staff and that I would have to fill out a maintenance request. The building I live in is 5 stories, and many people who were there had breathing issues, as there were family members who were not residents. They were not young like the students, which were only made more difficult because of this. When a student moves in, there should not be a health and safety hazard for their family.
Mr. Pender, before you leave, what building are you referring to? Okay, would you be kind enough to give it to me on the way out so I know, so I can consider it? Sure. I'll turn off my mic.
Luke Spalcho should be in person. Thank you.
Hi, yeah, so I just want to kind of reiterate the points of housing and just how exorbitant tuition is. I just want to make it clear that this is not a public university. When tuition is 8,000 in-state, double that out of state, and it rises continuously every year, that is not the behavior of a public institution for all. That is the behavior of a corporate machine that preys on students and the workers that run it day by day, and that y'all will not grant us debt relief is insane. You would rather have loan sharks go after folks out of college than actually make this university affordable and free to all. Even though we pay 8,000 in-state, also too, even though we pay in-state tuition 8,000 a year, out of state 16,000 a year. 1 in 3 graduate and undergraduate students are food insecure. 1 in 5 undergraduates are housing insecure. 1 in 3 graduates are housing insecure. 6% of undergraduates are homeless, and 5% of graduates are homeless. And this is only for New Brunswick. I cannot imagine the rates for Camden and Newark, who are continuously left out of the conversation and out of this university. What was it? Newark had a surplus of $90 million that was sent to New Brunswick. That simply does not make sense. Y'all do not care about the Camden and Newark campuses. You do not care about the gentrification that this university puts on the communities. I just want to reiterate the bargaining for a common good demands that this university does not care about. You do not care about. We demand a rent freeze on all Rutgers properties. We demand debt relief to all students, and we demand a beloved community fund. We demand these things, and we will keep coming here until we get these things. Y'all won't even match the money. You have $800 million in reserves. Are you kidding me? Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves, truly. Think about that when you sleep, that your students and your workers every night go hungry, worry about making rent, might even be on the street. Are you kidding me? Shame.
our individual who should be in person, DT Vajape.
Esteemed Board of Governors, President Holloway, you might recognize the face. I am here today as an out-of-state student. I have lived in New Jersey for 2 years, yet I cannot qualify for in-state tuition until my senior year at Rutgers, if at all possible. This means that every year I pay more than $20,000 for 2 semesters. Maybe an argument can be made, oh, I'm out of state, but consider the plight of my in-state peers over here. What has been reiterated by the person before me. The bargaining for the common good demands that we are laying out in front of you, the Board of Governors, is common sense demands. We're making this clear again and again. We want to describe how Rutgers is an illustrious public university, a land grant institution that is supposed to do good for the residents of New Jersey, whether it be at Newark, whether it be at New Brunswick, whether it be at Camden. And yet time and time again, we have seen how Rutgers has failed its community members and failed its students, whether it be the gentrifying patterns, whether it be how discontented everyone is, whether it be the undergrad students, the grad workers, the fellows, the faculty. We are all asking for basic demands. The adjuncts take place. The adjuncts take 30% of the labor of this university when it comes to education, and yet they are still being disrespected at the bargaining room. We would like you to consider this clearly and make eye contact with me while I'm talking. Thank you.
Ms. Boswell?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to call Liana Katz.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Liana Katz. I am a graduate student here at Rutgers, New Brunswick. I am this year on a university fellowship for the second time during my graduate career over the last 4 years. Because I am on fellowship that is funded by this university, I earn $25,000 a year. And this is before I have to pay fees to this university, which during my first year as a graduate student here at Rutgers totaled over $1,000. That was the equivalent of one of my entire paychecks that I received to support myself. I also know that on top of that, I am not an international student, but my fellow grad workers who are international students are paying additional hundreds of dollars on top of the fees that everyone is paying if you're on fellowship as a grad worker here at Rutgers. So I'm asking all of you, how are we supposed to survive on $25,000 a year with hundreds or if not thousands of dollars taken out for fees? Some departments, I'll say I'm fortunate to earn $25,000 because there are other grad workers on fellowship here at Rutgers who earn less than that. $20,000 a year. And because this university does not see what we do as labor, that allows you to pay us less. Even though we are teaching, we are doing groundbreaking lab research that got us all through the COVID pandemic. We are mentoring students, we are running our departments, and we are being paid far less than a living wage and being forced to pay exorbitant fees that make it hard for us to survive. A living wage in New Jersey is around $43,000 a year. Again, I'll repeat that I earn $25,000 a year before those fees are taken out of my paycheck. Some of us are earning even less. So I ask you, could you survive? Could your family survive? Many of us have families. We are not just young people being supported by our parents. We have responsibilities. We have adult responsibilities. We need to care for ourselves and for our families. So I'll ask you as a closing, could you survive on $25,000 a year? Could your family survive on $25,000 a year and pay fees on top of that? Thank you.
Ms. Boswell, next speaker, please.
Thank you. Gabriel Bessa. Oscar Villar.
Good evening. I have the privilege not just to be here tonight, of course, but to be here again because this is not my first time here. Not just at this meeting, but I had the pleasure, or as some may view it, the dishonor and displeasure of being here last time. Except last time, I wasn't aware that I had to sign up. Last time, that information wasn't made widely available to me, and so I didn't speak. I did, however, get to have a chance to have a very productive conversation with our beloved President Holloway. I see you there. Look at me. You rolled your eyes at me back in September, and I do not regret that. I yelled at you. I stand by that. However, that's not what I'm going to speak on today, because although our conversation, the words you said to me were very infantilizing, what I'm about to touch on is much, much more serious. So yes, I shall remain on topic. I'm here today to speak about language justice. Now, the last time I spoke at one of these meetings, it was the meeting on February 28th. The university had called a snow day on only the Newark campus, and it was convenient timing, right? Because then that meant you didn't have to hold your meeting in person. You didn't have to deal with all these people here, your beloved community. And even though you were online, and it is easier to do this online than it is in person, you still refuse to have translators on the other side. You still refuse to accommodate your Spanish-speaking community. As someone who grew up in a Spanish-speaking house, I can see here que de verdad es una gran lástima que no solamente que no hay ningún, no hay miembros aquí de la comunidad. There aren't any members here from the community. It's a great shame. Pero sería un gran milagro. It'd be a great miracle if there were even any people, si había gente hispanohablante, Spanish speaking over on Zoom, por Zoom. It's ridiculous. And you can agree with me when you say this. I know you will agree, you will disagree with me, because I know the board makes it a point to appoint people of color and non-white, non-male members. But however, I will maintain, and I'll say this right now, that the Board of Governors and the university itself is institutionally racist, not just for not having language justice, not just for being unable and unwilling to accommodate the mostly Hispanic and Black community of New Brunswick. And I'm not talking about the beloved community of Rutgers. And I weaponize that language, not just because it makes you angry, but because you should not be making those false promises, President Holloway. And that goes for every single one of you. That goes for you, that goes for you, that goes for you, that goes for you, you, especially you. Look at me. You, and any other administrators in this room. Because I know there are administrators in this room. And I know there are administrators over there over Zoom too. If you find me scary, if I make you uncomfortable, that's good. You know why? Because the situation that we're in right now is extremely unjust. And if we want to talk about false promises, if we want to talk about a beloved community, right? Explain to me, President Holloway, I know you're not taking questions. I don't expect any answers, but explain to me how you're the first Rutgers president to oversee a faculty strike. Explain to me how, although you claim to love the community, you threatened an injunction despite several scholars in your field advising you not to go for it, to not retaliate against all the faculty, all the community, all the students on strike. Your administration was organizing watches and reports. You were encouraging people to basically snitch on each other for not teaching, for not going to class, and for what? So we could go back to class, so we could go back to earning $25,000 a year while you make over $1 million before bonuses. And I know the rest of you make six figures. The rest of you have families. Imagine if you
wrap up, Mr.
25,000
Villar.
years. Excuse me?
Please wrap up.
I shall wrap up. Yes, thank you, sir. No. But I do stand by that this institution, and I would even extend that each and every one of you individually are racist. Son racistas. I say that because you make this incredibly unaccessible for the community, for students, for everybody here. The fact that we're the only ones here standing here speaks volumes to your university and how undemocratic it is. And again, I will say this again, how racist it is.
Thank
I
you,
don't
Mr.
care if
Villar.
you're the first Black president of this university. It is a
Thank you.
racist university. I will stand by that.
Ms. Fosca, next speaker, please.
Shelby Wardlaw.
Hello. So I'd like to talk about tuition. I think that the threat to raise tuition is a result of neoliberal capitalistic practices, and I'm disappointed by the Board of Governors' lack of creative thinking that the only solution to budgetary issues is to increase the financial burden on students and their families. When our football coach makes $4 million a year, there's no reason why we can't pay our grad workers a living wage. If this is supposed to be a business and your business model is predicated on exploited labor, otherwise you have to raise the price of your product, which in this case would be education, then it's an unsustainable business model. And I believe that education should be a public service to enrich the lives of the people of New Jersey, as I'm sure many of you think as well. And in so doing, you have to change the ultimate financial model that you're operating under. And I would encourage the Board of Governors to reconsider their unsustainable business practices that encourage the raising of tuition in order to solve their budgetary issues, and instead to ask for more funding from New Jersey State or to find some other public source of funding so that we can have a more equitable and accessible educational experience for all of our New Jersey community. I also want to talk about the rent freeze. We need a rent freeze, not just for the students, but also for the community and faculty members. I'm a faculty member and I can't afford to live around New Brunswick. If I make about $3,400 a month and I would have to pay 1/2 to 2/3 of my salary simply for rent and standard living expenses. So I hope the standard financial advice is to spend 1/3 of one's salary on living costs, and that's unsustainable at the current price of the Rutgers salaries and the price of rent around here. So please encourage a sustainable and close Rutgers community, a beloved community, by exercising a rent freeze, both for the students, for the community, and for the faculty members, so that we can actually be a more consolidated and connected community, as opposed to the very diffuse and dispersed ones that we have to have now. Many of my fellow faculty members have to live in Philadelphia or other cheaper areas of New Jersey because we can't afford to live around New Brunswick. So I would encourage you to consider a rent freeze, not just for students, also for our community and also for your faculty members, to make it a sustainable job position for us to live around the university that we love so much. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Paspa, another speaker, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're going to go to Zoom as I see Gabrielle Bessa is now online. You should be able to speak now. Gabrielle Bessa?
You're on mute, I think, Ms. Bessa.
Okay, we will come back to you. Go back to in-person, Alexandria Harris.
If she's not here, is it okay if I go instead?
I'd rather get through the list first, if you don't mind.
Okay,
Thank
no
you.
problem.
Could you just give us your name, please?
Nicole Kane.
Thank you.
Next on the list is Ming.
Hi. All right. My name is Ming. I'm an alumni of Rutgers, and honestly, I think all my comrades here have spoken to all the issues I'm going to be bringing up pretty much. I'm just going to be speaking as someone who's been trying to advocate for the bargaining for the common good demands over the course of the Rutgers strike. Yeah, it's dumbfounding to me that this is the first time I'm getting to look all of you in the eyes. I've heard your names so many times, but I have never, see for all the discourse about wanting to create a dialogue and engage with your beloved community. It seems that you guys really hate the idea of being in a room with us. So I'm glad that we're finally here looking each other eye to eye. I'm not sure what to say, right? Just echoing. A rent freeze is a necessity at this point. I've lived in New Brunswick about 4 years now, and I see more like homeless folks out on the streets every single day. And the way that it's a connected process when you're hiking up tuition and hiking up rents and you're refusing to kind of play your part as like the largest landlord in Jersey where you have the chance, right, to put in a rent freeze, and by not doing so, you're directly you're enacting violence on like the working class and like the poor people of Jersey who can't afford like the prices that you're driving up. So a rent freeze is an absolute necessity. And I think it was nice that one of the previous speakers kind of talked about urging you guys. We're demanding and we're organized, and we can get it here, we'll get it elsewhere. But we can do it at this bargaining table, or we'll do it through people power, whatever is needed to get us there. So a rent freeze is a necessity. Student debt relief, of course. There's been horror stories of student loans literally being sold to like loan sharks and debt collectors after people graduate. I don't really know how like any kind of like, I get it. We're all individuals, we work in this institution. But to even be like an individual culpable in like a larger institution where you are treating students who, need to get a college education as assets, I believe that's admin's own words, and commodities is frighteningly like dehumanizing. Racist. Yeah, it is racist, right? To look at people that way, because ultimately, again, it's the working class who is impacted the most severely by this. And that working class is predominantly made up of Black, brown, and other people of color. So student debt relief, and I believe other folks will speak to this, but there are like students who are homeless on your campus, and that also speaks to the rent freeze as well, right? Like there's an issue, it's violence. The institution is enacting violence, and it does so every day. And I can say all this, and I just get these blank stares. How do I always? It's like city council. All right.
Can you wrap
So,
up, please?
huh?
Can you wrap up, please?
I can try. So I think
Okay,
student debt
I
relief is
appreciate
really
that.
important. We're also demanding a community fund. That's been something that admin has just flat out refused to engage with us with. We've gotten vague promises here and there, but nothing really. $1 million from your reserves of 818 million is nothing. It is nothing. It is a very modest, very small demand, and that we can't even win on that when you guys spend, I think, 450K on DoorDash for your athletes is incredible. It's something so little. It's so doable, and still we're struggling for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are welcome. I also want to demand a community
you.
table where students can talk with the
shut your mic off
community
now.
and
Thank you.
faculty. It's necessary to have this dialogue going. But yeah,
Please yield the floor so other people can speak. Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Pasfa, call the next speaker, please.
Gabrielle Bessa on Zoom.
Please give us the opportunity and let other people speak so that they can be heard. It's common courtesy. Thank you. You've been given the opportunity to speak, so we will continue to call from the list. Next speaker, please.
Gabrielle Bessa on Zoom. Please unmute. Okay, I'm just going to go back to those who were signed up on Zoom but did not show up on Zoom, just in case they are in person. Malinga Hibbert. Yeah, Shung Tao. David Alexander. Christopher Sherfain.
Hold
Oh,
on,
good.
hold on.
Right here.
Sorry about that.
We got you. We're not going to skip you.
Yes, my name's David. I'm from the North Campus. Look at me, President Holloway. 3 of my friends are homeless. Do you hear that? 3 of my friends are homeless. This board is sitting on $800 million, and my friends are homeless. And you possess the arrogance to even float raising tuition. You have a $600,000 salary every year. You have a house paid for with student funds. You have a chauffeur and cook. Mr. Gower, $500,000 a year. I believe you have a chauffeur as well. Mr. Tambusi, I was looking for your conflict of interest reports, but I could not find them. If I understand, that's a violation of state law, yes? Matter of fact, a lot of you. I found 3 salaries. each one each one was 6 figures. I understand some of you might not be paid as well, but I don't know what that's about. Here's what I know. Those on this board who are paid to the tune of 6 figures a year. Here's what I know. The board that spends this money is sitting on $800 million. Here's what I know. This board pays the football coach $4 million a year, the basketball coach $3 million a year. And I have homeless friends. Damnation. That's what awaits all of you. Damnation. Damnation. That you can take a penny of student funds. Talk of beloved community. While your beloved community is fucking homeless. To hell.
Next speaker, please. I'm gonna ask you to give other people the opportunity to speak. You're out of order. Ms. Pasford, next. Are you gonna let other people speak? Okay, thanks. Give us the opportunity to call the next speaker.
Alexandria Harris. Nicole Kane.
Hi, everyone. I'm a junior in undergrad, and I just wanted to talk about tuition. For me, in-state tuition is a little over 18,000 a year, and that's not including housing. With housing, it's over 36,000. And something I just wanted to bring to your attention is that New Jersey is literally like, and California, but New Jersey as well, most expensive state to live in. We have the highest property taxes, highest car insurance in the country, highest income taxes. And even if a family is making around $150,000 a year, I promise you, it all goes. It all gets taken in the income tax, all gets taken in the property tax, car insurance, everything goes. And then when you have multiple kids, multiple of them in college, these families literally can't afford to make funds to send their kids to college. So then when you have kids whose family are making that much money, and then you're just looking at the paper and you go, oh, you can afford to pay $36,000 a year in tuition. I know students in that situation, they're paying full price tuition all by themselves. They're taking out loans all by themselves, $18,000 a year. And it's just like, how are they going to be able to grow up and live with all of this debt? When I told financial aid that I'm at $75,000 in debt and I'm only 20 years old because no one else is paying for my education, just me. And this was the cheapest option for me to go to because this is an in-state institution. They literally told me to screw off. They told me they didn't care. But I know people who, you know, whether it's like, well, someone I know personally whose family, they hide money from the government and then they don't have to pay for tuition. This person has $15,000 in credit from the school and they are spending it on AirPods. They have 2 laptops, alcohol, weed. And then there's students like me who are in all this debt. Last semester when I ran out of meal swipes and I told them I couldn't afford it, they literally told me there was nothing they can do and I starved. I promise you, I did not eat. I ate when somebody brought me food because I couldn't go and buy it because my mommy and daddy don't just hand me a credit card and go, oh, here you go, sweetie, because like that's just not possible. And then when the athletes are getting free clothes, which they do, full rides, DoorDash, the coach is making $4 million a year. It's just like, you look at these people and you're like, oh my God, like I can't even eat. And then people who make above the $150 mark, you know, even though we're looked at as the same, completely different story of me. They have everything. They have their rent paid for, living with their friends. They have, you know, they can just go to wherever, Whole Foods, and buy food. And then like, you know, like the fact that like people are associated with them. Meanwhile, like, you know, they have to buy their own cars, pay their own tuition, do this, do that. It's just like, it's not the same. They're living a different life compared to other people who have like multiple students in college. And even though me and my sister were both in college, Rutgers didn't care. Rutgers did not lower my tuition at all. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. Ms. Foster,
Christopher Sharfane.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Pasfa. Thank you for all who have participated in this hearing. We have given everyone who signed up for this hearing the opportunity to speak. And we are going to adjourn the hearing now. Thank you for your comments. Well, we are getting paid for this. Okay, hold on. Do we have anyone from the who hasn't signed up who wishes to speak? If you are, please stand. Okay, all right, hold on. I've got 3 people, and that's where we'll be, and then we'll adjourn the meeting. Sir, could you please identify yourself?
Yeah, I'm Tim. I'm an undergrad sophomore. I live in Clothier Hall. There is asbestos in the ceiling. I'm a STEM major, so I'll do a little chemistry lesson for you guys. So asbestos was a material commonly used for heat proofing way back when Clothier Hall was built in 1963. It was acceptable, and it has been shown to cause a wide variety of respiratory illnesses, most highly associated with lung cancer. Speaking of other things, black mold. It's chemistry, biology lesson now because we're in a university. I'm a STEM major. Black mold can also cause respiratory illnesses, and do you know what just so happens to be both in Clothier Hall? It starts with an A, rhymes with asbestos and black mold. Yeah. This isn't now the complete lack of maintenance and investment in what is thousands of students' homes for across 3 campuses. It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. And every penny like spent to whatever salary you're making, probably more than I'll touch in a lifetime, to be honest. It's disgusting. I was fortunate and lucky enough. I lived in the Honors College last year, which was built, I believe, 5 years ago. It's relatively new. And somehow there was still black mold in the bathrooms. The shining jewel of Rutgers corroded by like administrative incompetence. If that's not like a bigger symbol, I don't know what is. The absolute, I can't even find the words to say it right now. My disgust. I can't even enunciate. The fact the prices charged for these absolutely like unsafe living conditions, absolutely shame on each and every one of you. I have no other words to say. I would, you know what?
Thank you.
Okay,
Next
guys,
speaker,
got
please.
anything else? Want to help me out here?
Next speaker, please.
Hey!
Next speaker, please. Next speaker, please. Please identify yourself.
Hi, I'm Cal. I currently live
I'm
in.
sorry. I'm sorry. Could you give us your name?
I'm Cal Foder. I currently live in Heidelberg. Last semester, when it was becoming winter time, the heating in my dorm did not turn on until I think it was like early December, and it was reaching like temperatures of like 20 degrees out. And we sent multiple maintenance requests and multiple we asked around to our RAs, so anyone who could reach, like, hey, can you turn on the heating on? It's like super cold. It's like impossible to do work in our dorm. I remember people from my floor would come to class and be like, and their teachers would be like, why is everyone so tired today? Why did you not do your work? And they're like, it's literally too cold in my dorm. Like, they did not turn on the heating. We never heard about the heating being fixed. We did hear one thing though. We got an email before the heating was fixed to not use space heaters. So they made sure to tell us that. They did eventually turn on the heating. We never got an email why. We never got an email when. They never really told us anything. And I found that this problem with heating is something that every single student who I know who dorms at Rutgers has experienced. And it's something that Rutgers has shown no interest in trying to fix. And despite this, the rates, the amount priced on Heidelberg Hall went up about $250 since since the 21 to 22 semester. And if I'm correct, these are dorms that are going to be torn down in a couple of years. So why is these prices on these dorms keep rising for places where students are literally freezing, where the conditions are horrible? the water pressure doesn't work, the hot water doesn't work. Students in the dorm next to me during the winter time had to go across the street to go take showers because there was no hot water in the winter time. And it just shows like over and over again, a complete lack of care for your students and a complete obsession with profit. And it's honestly disgusting. That's all.
Next speaker, please. Will you be using,
Just a
serving
quick
as an
moment.
interpreter?
Yes, I shall be her interpreter. Yes.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Reinalda Cruz. Yo soy miembro de la organización New Labor y soy parte de la comunidad de New Brunswick.
Hello, my name is, good afternoon. My name is Ronaldo Cruz. I am a member of New Labor and a member of the New Brunswick community.
Yo estoy aquí porque queremos exigirle a Rutgers que frise la renta de los estudiantes
We are urging Rutgers to freeze the rent on all properties for all students who attend this university.
porque por causa de Rutgers, nosotros la comunidad de New Brunswick estamos sufriendo una alza muy grande en nuestras rentas.
We are demanding this because it is Rutgers' fault for not freezing the rents on campus, that the rents off campus in New Brunswick are rising.
Porque los estudiantes, al no poder pagar aquí la renta de ustedes, ellos salen afuera en la comunidad y rentan las casas y los landlords se las rentan a alto precio.
Because students can't afford rent and housing here, they go off campus, they go into the community and they pay for these high rents out there, which are so high, again, because Rutgers raises the rent.
Ya que los estudiantes pagan altísimo un costo, porque mi hija estudió aquí en Rutgers, ella ya se graduó, ella estudió, ella vivió en Livingston, vivió en Bush y es una renta exageradamente.
I would know because my daughter went to Rutgers, my daughter lived on Livingston campus, my daughter lived on Bush campus, and the rents there are ridiculous. They are out of control.
Y por eso la comunidad le exige al presidente Halloween que por favor, él tiene en sus manos, todos ustedes tienen en sus manos el poder de frizar la renta y apoyar a estos estudiantes y apoyar a la comunidad.
That is why we are urging the Board of Governors, we are especially urging President Holloway to freeze the rent. You have the power. It is in your hands to freeze the rent and love and give back to your beloved community.
Y queremos un fondo para la comunidad porque Rutgers, a pesar de ser una institución tan millonaria en tiempos de pandemia, no nos dio un solo dólar.
And we're also asking for a beloved community fund because Rutgers made millions over the pandemic. Rutgers made over 300 million in profits over the pandemic. We want that. None of that was ever given to us. That all went into your pockets.
Thank you, ma'am. May we have your name, please?
Thank you.
May we have your name, please? Ma'am, can we have your name, please?
Reinalda Cruz.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz.
And that's how you do interpretation, you racist.
Next speaker.
Peace. My name is Johanna Faith Banyas Buaro Cacho Dunang Parung Almiron Johnson, and I'm a faculty member in the American Studies Department. And I'm here in solidarity with the students who did not get their demands met and the community that has not gotten their demands met. I teach in Ruth Adams Building. Have you been there of recent times? Anyone from the board? It's a beautiful, gorgeous building that, given its restoration, could really shine. I teach in the room 206, and of the 50 students, 23 of those chairs are broken. Out of the 5 blinds that we have, 4 are broken. And so in order for us to, but I would like to say that in spite of these conditions, the students are brave, they are brilliant, they're doing all the things that is meant to be a student, which is to stay curious and to stay courageous about the world they're living in. As adults, we have this beautiful opportunity to make their learning conditions ones where their leadership is called upon. Their leadership is called upon, and not only within the crisis, but because of the radical love that we show them through our actions, our decisions, and our policymakers. We should actually be quite proud of the ways they have been able to articulate their politic, embody it, take all of us to task, not only as public servants, but as educators and as intellectuals. On April 9th, 2023, it is not just a historic day because the faculty of the largest higher education protest, at least on the East Coast, that is a part of our history. But it was also the birthday of our revolutionary ancestor, Paul Robeson. Paul Robeson, as you know, was all of the things that we are in this room. He was an athlete, he was a student, he was a labor organizer, and he used all of his God-given gifts to serve the greater good, to put the rest of the world on notice that when something is unequal, when something is unfair, when those who are already on the ground are stepped on further, that we have the indomitable human spirit to get back up, to fight back.
Thank you. Please wrap up.
Gwendolyn Brooks has a poem called Paul Robeson. It's very short, I promise. And as fellow
You have the
scholars,
time. You can say. That's exactly what I told her.
and I'm going to dedicate this to the change makers that are holding the legacy of Paul Robeson, not as a street, but as the lives that we live and stand up to. Paul Robeson. That time we all heard it, cool and clear, cutting across the hot grit of the day, the major voice, the adult voice. Foregoing rolling river, foregoing tearful tale of bale and barge, and other symptoms of an old despond, warning in music words devout and large, that we are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. And this is for y'all. We are each other's magnitude and bond. Let us behave accordingly to stand up for each other and care for one another as if love is real.
Thank you. Ma'am, did you want to speak? You may speak.
I did want to speak.
Please, give us your name, please.
My name is Durga S. Manem, and I am a sophomore here at Rutgers.
Okay.
And I want to speak on the topic of housing.
Okay.
So when I first moved into my dorm is Jameson H. They refused to turn on the air conditioning. There is no air conditioning actually. And the heat got so unbearable that I had passed out in my dorm. I live alone as of now, currently. There's no one to come in to check in on me. And my parents were supposed to pick me up that day. They came by for 5 hours. I didn't pick up the phone. They didn't know what had happened to me. And they stressed and they had to take it up to the police and it had to be escalated to the RA supervisor who had to come in and check in on me. For 5 hours I had passed out. My parents didn't know what was happening to me, and it put so much stress on me and my entire family. Your people, like, you cannot and ensure our safety even in our own dorms. The heating is unbearable. And even now, the heater in my dorm is still on. So many of us in my dorm, in all of the other Jameson buildings, have put in maintenance requests to turn off the heating. To this day, none of them have been heard. Like, none of our requests have been accepted. The heating is still on. I have had to deal with at least 3 bloody noses each week. And I feel lightheaded every single day. Can you ensure my safety and my health in the own dorm that I am paying so much for each year? Each year each semester, I am paying about 16 to 15,000 for tuition and housing included, including the meal plans. Yet I cannot go into my dorm every single day and be assured of the fact that I will be safe and that I won't pass out. My parents call me every single day as soon as I reach my dorm. They're like, "Are you okay? Do you need us to take you home?" I cannot go home. It is not that feasible. Obviously, as you can see with a lot of the people who live here, it's not easy for us to go home. And we have to live in these conditions. There is mold and water damage in my dorm. And I have respiratory issues. That mold that can make it worse. Every single day I have to deal with breathing issues and all that. And I cannot walk into my dorm and stay in my dorm without worrying, am I gonna pass out? Or am I gonna even sometimes I can't even sleep. I go on all-nighters. And you guys talk about your beloved community. You are all hypocrites. You cannot even ensure the safety of your own students in their own dorms, and you refuse to hear us when we reach out for help. You said you will be there for us when we need help. Not even the maintenance listens to our requests.
Thank you. Please wrap up.
Thank you. Thank you, hypocrites.
Thank you. Ma'am, would you like to speak?
Yes.
Okay. Hold on.
Hi,
Please give us your name.
Alexa Harris.
Thank you, Ms. Harris.
Okay.
And you'll be our last speaker tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we should bar people who would like to speak.
Ma'am.
So,
Your 2 minutes has started. Thank you.
okay. So, I'm sure some of my colleagues have raised awareness on the class war that's been going on here in New Brunswick and across all 3 campuses. If so many students, there's been a study done in 2022 by one of our amazing professors, and the findings were that 1 in 3 students face food insecurity. Now, also there are grad students also as well, besides undergrad, who face homelessness. We don't also have any representation in this body. I want to point out how undemocratic that is. If we have, like in the US political legal system, whatever, we have people who are supposed to be of our community representing us. We don't see that here. We don't have a say in you curtailing services, in cutting down the hours for fellow work study, when you cut down the hours for the libraries, which is a huge, important, critical resource for us to continue our learning here. We don't have any say when you continue raising and quote unquote reviewing the tuition and fees. We don't have a say when you're not doubling the staff for counseling, despite there was a surge of demand. We don't have a say in that. We don't have representation again in this body. We don't have a say when you cut back on buses and limit accessibility. Again, as someone said, the train station, a lot of people commute over. What's up with that? We don't have any say when the university dropped the policy of refunding students on their meal swipe plans when they weren't using them. That was a lot of money too. We don't have a say on basically really anything. And so we come out here to speak, and it feels like we're speaking to a wall. Feels like I'm just speaking, like looking at my shoes and talking. But I really hope that you take my comments and the concerns of so many students
not just today, but every day moving forward. Because this is a struggle. It's a struggle bus. It's a struggle community. Like, we can stop this. You can stop this. I mean, not we, because we're not included in this conversation or conversations that you have. We're not included. So if we have quote unquote grievances, that's why.
Thank you. Please,
It's not
please
a
wrap up.
democratic process.
Please wrap up.
And so moving forward, it would be great to see, if not this whole Board of Governors just governed by the students, undergrad and PTLs and faculty and staff. But it would be great to at least have, you know, a student representing each campus and the greater New Brunswick community at least would be nice. I think that would be a lot more democratic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes the open hearing on the university tuition fees and housing and dining charges. Thank you. Thank all those who participated in today's hearing. At this point in time, the hearing is adjourned. Thank you.